Alright, so we are back. We're gonna dive back into this thing since yesterday was such a disappointment, but it is day 6 of our 15-day adventure of getting these cars prepped for Bash to the Future. We officially have 7 days to get these cars done, and mainly it's gonna be my car since Aaron's car is pretty much ready to go. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, we'll put a link up here or down in the description. Basically, if you haven't seen the video, is too much to kind of go back on. We tried to start the engine yesterday and it didn't start. So now we got to dive into what is wrong. I have a few things I want to check today after kind of doing some research and talking to some friends. When I got here, the first thing I checked was the oil filter. I unthreaded it to see if any oil would drip out, and there's nothing. So basically, my motor wasn't getting any oil up to the heads, which would be a reason why I didn't really want to crank. So I'm gonna look up procedures on how to prime the oil pump and go from there. We'll probably have to prime it, try to get it by hand, just to get it through the system a little bit. The other thing I want to check is if the starter is too close to the flywheel and it's just binding, like the teeth are just digging into the flywheel. So if we space it out just a little bit more, it might be able to just kick it and not fight it. And if that doesn't work, we will pull the trans and turn the motor by hand since the starter's on the transmission. So we'll turn it by hand and see if that helps at all. If not, then I have to do some more research. But 7 days. All right, so I pulled out the starter, which was a pain in the ass with it in the car, but on the starter there's a stud up top. That's what it was mainly getting stuck on. Once I got that out, I checked the teeth on the flywheel, the teeth on the starter, and they seem fine. It seems like they're engaging fine. There's no like scoring or scratches on either. I'm still leaning towards there's no oil, and so it's just ran dry. Before I pull the trans, because it's gonna be a pain in the ass again, I'm gonna try to put some oil down the cylinders and then try to turn it by hand and see if that helps lubricate the system.
All right, well, while Michael's working on getting that starter back in, Kaylin stopped by and I figured I'd take this opportunity to go ahead and put in my trailer brake controller. I picked it up off Amazon. It's just a Reese Tillman 4 or 6, something like that. But I definitely wanted to have trailer brakes so when we're coming back down from Medford, it's a little less sketchy. Those hills in the Siskiyous can get a little wild. I've already wired it up. I should be able to just screw the bracket in and plug it in and be good to go. So like I said, it's already wired up. Should be as simple as just plugging it in and mounting that bracket. I want to mount this so it's about here. I can see it perfectly through the hole and I don't have to worry about kicking it or anything like that while it's in there. All installed. Easy as that. Thankfully, the Tahoe came with the adapter harness and all I had to do was wire it up, plug it in, and that was that. Sounds like Michael got the starter back in. Let's go check on him.
All right, so got the starter back in. Now just gonna put like a cap full of oil into the cylinders, every one, and then try to crank it. Hopefully it'll kind of lubricate the cylinders like I was saying and be able to turn easier. I really think my oil pump isn't primed, but the only way people say to prime it is to crank it. So So still no luck. I was gonna take off the belts just to give less tension on everything, and then go from there. Alright, so we're gonna pull the engine, get the trans off, get the engine on the engine stand, flip it, pull the oil pan, inspect what's going on. Probably before we put it on the engine stand, once we get the trans unbolted, we'll try to rotate it by hand. Shouldn't take too long. I gotta pull my tube front and the lower tension rod brackets, and then the engine can come out. Plan. Aaron's here also, so it should be a lot quicker, which is nice.
Brandon said we should call it Hank.
Hank?
Hank. Guys, I'd like you to meet somebody. This is Hank. Fucking transmission. It's in neutral right now.
Yeah.
This spins.
Maybe it's the pilot bearing?
Maybe.
Like maybe we need to grind some of this off. When I had to grind for that flywheel spacer, I had it lower on one side than the other, which will make that out of line.
So we're at a point right now. We know that the transmission spins freely. We know that the motor will spin freely. That is probably the issue.
Yeah.
I would say
Pull that shit off.
pull it off, but let's call Excessive in the morning
Okay.
and see if they can give us any advice.
Okay.
But call them like the minute they open and every 10 minutes all day.
Yep.
Maybe we'll see something obvious when we pull that out. So let's pull the clutch off, pull the flywheel off, go from there. But good news, motor's not fucked, transmission's not fucked. It's something in the middle of the two. So there's still hope.
There's still hope. Is there still hope to get to Bash? Probably. Will it be aligned? No, probably not.
There's still hope. And if nothing else, I'm sure we can find somebody in Oregon who can align.
Yeah. Fuck, do I need to get new flywheel bolts?
Maybe. What'd you get? Are they APR? Or ARP? Or whatever the fuck?
No, they're the ones that came with the...
I would.
So call Excessive, get those fucking shipped ASAP.
Or call and ask them. Oh yeah, because they have the spacer.
Yeah.
Call and ask if they're reusable. Well, we have to call them anyways, but...
So it might be the flywheel spacer.
If that would be my first guess.
Yeah.
If it's not that, then possibly like no, just with how that was all fucked up right there.
Yeah.
That's got me leaning more towards the spacer over anything else.
And that's why I was almost thinking grind that flat, right? I know we didn't because it helps it center, but then it'll push. We could hammer that pilot bearing in more, because maybe the pilot bearing like was stuck on
Binding.
right here.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see metal to metal right there.
Yeah. So I say we call excessive.
Yeah, before we grind or anything.
Before we go any farther.
Yep. Like, I need to go through the pins and double check my injectors. I think that's the biggest reason why I had the misfire issue. Because when I was doing that plug, remember I was like looking at the wire, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I remember that.
So I need to go with the book, like see which wire is where in the pins over here, and then confirm it with the book that I have the pin out going to that spot.
Yeah.
Fucking weak.
Yep.
We got this off. We know motor's not an issue, trans is not an issue. Something to do with the adapter, or not the adapter plate, but that flywheel spacer or something there. So for those of you that want to go excessive or have already done it and you've seen this problem or you didn't, let us know. But it's kind of a downside of the swap because you have to grind down the flywheel, or not the flywheel, the crank snout. Is that what you said?
Snub.
Oh yeah, the snub on the crankshaft, just to get that spacer to bolt on. And the pilot bearing that they have in there was, when we first put it on, if you go back a lot of videos ago. All right, we'll put a link up here wherever it was. But when we pushed the flywheel spacer on, we had to bolt it down to push the pilot bearing that they have pressed into the piece out. Kind of looking at the input shaft of the transmission, it looks like there might be a little bit of grinding. So I don't know if they gave us the wrong one.
And it definitely doesn't look like, there's no real good pictures of this flywheel spacer, but in Offbeat Garage's video, they're also doing a VH swap into a Z32, I believe. But also just like Google searching it, it's very low definition, it's hard to tell, but it doesn't look the same. Like the one online looks like it's got kind of a taper, and ours just has like a brass bushing in it. There's no like taper at all. So I was skeptical about it just based on that when we first started running into issues, and now that this has become another issue, it's got me questioning it again.
Yep, that's for sure.
Real quick, we were just looking at it, and I know you guys can't see it because GoPros don't do close-up very well, but this has actually got a bit of it ground down where it's been making contact with this tapered seat on the input shaft. So definitely gonna go ahead and assume that this is our fucking problem. What the fuck?
Yep, seriously. Seven days left of this 9-day.
Where the fuck did you get 9?
Because I thought yesterday was 10.
Like 4 days ago.
Oh, 7. We have a week. How did I fucking get 9?
It's